Hi, I'm Dr. Chad Larson. I'm here to tell you that the United States is number one. Unfortunately, number one in obesity. The latest studies out from the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development has looked at its 34 member countries, which is all the major developed countries in the world, have come out with the statistics that over the last several years there's been a soaring increase in obesity, and the United States is by far number one. So this is a real problem for our overall general health statistics, because obesity is a major risk factor for many other health conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. So what we've learned is that it's not that weight gain and obesity is not a willpower problem. It's a knowledge problem. And there really hasn't been any major government or institution that's been able to bridge the gap with individuals to help educate them on making healthier diet and lifestyle choices. In fact, most of the funds into obesity is to the pharmaceutical industry. So even up to just today, they're trying to develop new drugs for obesity, instead of to drive more money into teaching people how to make better choices. So in the last couple of weeks, we did a 4-part series on fat, sick, and dead in the United States. It's a 4-part series, and in part 1 we talked about some of those grim statistics of that the OECD from their latest studies of their 34 member countries, with the United States being the number one in obesity. And then part 2 we talked about a large component of that, and it's food addiction. Unfortunately, most of the foods that we're addicted to are the ones that seem to increase most addiction, are the unhealthy foods that are high in fats and high in sugar and high in refined carbohydrates. So we need to get better at making those changes. And also in part 2, we talked about a study that was out of the International Journal of Epidemiology. And what they found out is that the longer that one is obese or overweight, the shorter their lifespan is. In fact, they took the medium range of years of obesity was 5 to 15. And if somebody was obese for that period of time, their rate of mortality doubled. And for those who are obese for 15 years or more, the rate of mortality tripled. And for every year obese beyond that, the rate increased by several percentage points. So what it came down to is that the longer you're obese, the faster you're going to die, is basically what it comes down to. And then in part 3 of the series, we spoke about how to combat the food addictions. And there's several specific steps. There's 10 steps in that article, so I encourage you to have a look at that. That's a little difficult to summarize in a quick video, but I would encourage you to look at that, because it's largely at the root of making changes, is learning how to make those changes to your food choices. And again, I'll reiterate that it's not a question of willpower, it's a question of knowledge. And then in part 4 of the series, we talked about a couple of things. One of them is the concept of toxic hunger as opposed to normal healthy hunger. And then we talked about a study that was done recently on really the most efficient way to lose fat and body weight and increase wellness and energy. And so basically toxic hunger, I think, was probably originally purported by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. He's written several books, and he convincingly makes the case that much of our hunger that we feel from food addiction, essentially, is a toxic hunger, and one that comes from being addicted to these foods, and it's a false sense of hunger. And he emphasizes that really the way to make a change in that toxic hunger is to increase our intake of micronutrients, as opposed to just focusing on all the macronutrients. The macro are the proteins, fats, carbohydrates, but what he emphasizes is the micronutrients. And I agree that if we, with each meal, had a large variety of micronutrients from usually green salads and other vegetables, and if we consume that first before the main part of the meal, then we can help to slowly get rid of this toxic hunger effect. And then the study that we talk about from the journal Obesity looked at 400, almost 500 women, especially it was all post-menopause women, because that particular demographic seems to be particularly high in being overweight and obese. The following statistics could also be applied to many other demographics, but the study focused on women who were postmenopausal. And what they found out is they split the 500 or so women into 4 different groups. One group was an exercise-only group. Another group was a dietary change, caloric restriction group. The third group combined the two with having a lower calorie, more focused diet, healthier diet, and exercise. And then the fourth group was just the control group that had no intervention at all. And what they found out is that by far the group that had exercise and dietary caloric restriction together. And the goal of the study was to decrease 10% of body weight from the original weight at the beginning of the study. The study took place over about a year, and the study goal was 10% of weight loss from the original body weight. And the group that had the exercise and diet together was almost 11%, is 10.8% of total body weight loss. And for the exercise group and the diet-only group, the percentage was considerably less. So that's the take-home message, is that you know, there's really nobody's going to come to our rescue and all of a sudden start decreasing obesity in the country. So really, we have to make our choices one day at a time, and we have to take responsibility for our own personal choices. So this 4-part series can give you some tips and ideas about how to do that. And of course, as usual, feel free to give us a call if you have any questions. Thank you.